Dan Illman here with the DRF race of the day for Tuesday, December the 26th. It's opening day of the Santa Anita Winter Meeting, and that means great racing. Historically, Santa Anita's opening day, the day after Christmas, is a fantastic card, no exception in 2023. And of course, the traditional feature is our race of the day, the Grade 1 Malibu, going 7/8 of a mile for 3-year-olds. Let's take a peek at this field. Trainer Bob Baffert is very well represented. He has 3 strong contenders in the Malibu: the number 2 Fort Bragg, the number 3 Speedboat Beach, the number 7 Hijazi. All of these horses are capable of winning a race like the Malibu, but they are far from the only contenders in this race, which comes up extremely competitive. We'll throw up the Timeform US Pace Projector, and we see the number 5 Damon's Mound expected to be on the lead. I'm not sure if that's how it's going to play out, because Damon's Mound is so versatile. He is a horse that can make the lead, as he did last time out when going quick in the Steel Valley Sprint, but he's also shown the ability to sit off a horse or two and finish, and I'm assuming his jockey Junior Alvarado will simply play the break and take it from there. Speedboat Beach, the number 3, is fast, and I do think Flavien Prat is going to use that speed to his advantage, breaking from an inside post position number 3. I expect Speedboat Beach to show a lot of speed, and Hijazi breaking from this outside post I think is going to take up a nice 3-wide tracking trip. All 3 of the expected pace setters should be right in the thick of things when the field turns for home. We'll start our analysis with the number 1 Giant Mischief, who ships west for trainer Brad Cox. I really liked what this horse showed as a 2-year-old last year. He won his first 2 starts in professional fashion, including a victory at Keeneland over the 7/8 of a mile distance, where he bested a quality runner in Arabian Lion, albeit with a perfect ground-saving trip. Now, that trip was not available to him in his final start at 2, that being the Springboard Mile at Remington, where he had all sorts of traffic and trouble, and he still ran well to be second. He was probably best in that race. Unfortunately for Giant Mischief and his connections, his 3-year-old season has just been hindered by layoffs. He's only made it to the post 3 times, but his most recent race was a promising enough performance that makes me think Giant Mischief can still run. He was able to get second that day in a high-level allowance with some older horses in there, and he just didn't have a lot of pace to run at. Considering it was his first start in a couple of months and that he's only run a couple of times this year and he was against the pace flow, I thought the Giant Mischief ran very well. Cox is showing some confidence running this horse in this race. There's a chance this pace heats up, and Giant Mischief I would expect to come running from the back of the pack. It's nice to see him return without another pesky layoff line. He's sort of an under-the-radar contender, interesting at a price. The 2 is Fort Bragg, one of the 3 Baffert-trained runners, and we'll take a look at his most recent start. He got a little bit of a confidence boost in this race, dropping out of 7 straight graded stakes into this second-level allowance race, and he got a beautiful ride on the lead. It was a perfect trip. He got to the front. He didn't have to go very fast to make the lead. He got clear and faced no pressure, and he was able to sprint on home as much the best. He has earned triple-digit Beyer speed figures in 3 out of his last 4 starts. He beat a quality horse in Saudi Crown earlier this year, and we saw that horse come back and do some very good things in races like the Jim Dandy, and of course winning the Pennsylvania Derby. Fort Bragg does have a lot of talent, and he also is a horse with tactical speed as well. Maybe he's going to be at his best going 7/8 of a mile, and simply from a speed figure standpoint, he is very, very competitive. The 3 is Speedboat Beach, and what an interesting road to the Malibu it's been for Speedboat Beach. He was a dominant debut winner at Del Mar as a 2-year-old for Baffert. He earned a 104 Beyer speed figure, and usually when you see that sort of race from a Baffert-trained 2-year-old, you're thinking the next start will be a race like the American Pharoah, onto the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and onto the Triple Crown Series. Not so for Speedboat Beach, who then returned on turf for his final 3 starts as a 2-year-old, and he had success on the turf. Then he was laid up for a long time. This will only be his 3rd start of 2023, and he's run well in both of his prior outings. He just got beat in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship 2 starts back, first off a lengthy layoff, beaten by a quality rail skimming runner in Dr. Scheibel. Last time out in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, you can't really complain about the trip. He was up close to the pace, and the pace wasn't fast by Breeders' Cup Sprint standards. He was just in against some really tough horses, the likes of Elite Power and Gunite. Speedboat Beach might be cycling back into his best in his third start of the form cycle, and I still think he has some upside potential. Sharp as Attack is the number 4, and this horse will be making his dirt debut in the Malibu after making his first few starts on turf. He was beaten last time out, going a mile. I generally like horses cutting back to 7-furlong distance, especially in a race where there's some pace, and his sire Sharp as Attack connects with 16% of his dirt sprinters. He was a dirt horse. There's dirt in this pedigree for Sharp as Attack, but this just seems like a very tough spot for a horse to make his first start on a new surface. The 5 is Damon's Mound. Damon's Mound was a very good 2-year-old as well. He won the Saratoga Special in only his second lifetime start. This is a horse that ran really well in the Gallant Bob at Parks 2 starts back over a wet track where he sat off the pace and he sprinted on home. His most recent start was the Steel Valley Sprint. We're going to take a look at that race right now. He went to the front and he had to go fast early while facing a lot of pressure, and he tired at the end to finish second. Now, one of the also-rans from that race has already come back to win an allowance race at Oaklawn with a 99 Buyer's speed figure. I think Damon's Mound personally is a little better when he's able to sit off a horse. Maybe they'll allow Speedboat Beach to make the lead with Damon's Mound in close attendance, ready to make the first run on the pace setter when the field turns for home. Matanzas Creek is all upside, the number 6 going out for Mike Smith and Tim Yakteen. Let's watch his most recent race, only his second lifetime start. This is a maiden special weight going 3/4 of a mile at Del Mar, and Matanzas Creek got a very nice trip this day. He went to the front, and again, the pace was not very fast, and he was clear. It worked out beautifully for Matanzas Creek, who was able to sprint on home as a solid winner. He earned a very respectable Buyer's speed figure. I wouldn't be surprised if there's more in the tank from a speed figure standpoint, considering he is so lightly raced. That being said, this is a big step up in class, and I just don't think the trip that was available to him last time is going to be available to him here. Hijazi is the number 7. He began his career with a lot of buzz. He was second to Speedboat Beach when that horse ran that fast maiden race. He then was third as a maiden in the American Pharoah, and things just really didn't work out for Hijazi in his subsequent starts. He seems to be finding himself recently. He was second in the Lafayette 2 starts back, going 7 furlongs. That was way back in April. He returned off the layoff, and to me, he looked like a bigger, stronger individual, winning a first-level allowance race at Santa Anita, going 3/4 of a mile. He was patient, he sat off a horse, and the next thing you know, he was lengths the best. I think Hijazi is a horse that could be a quality sprinter in 2024 for Baffert. This is a nice horse that is starting to figure the game out and might be reaching peak maturity as he approaches his 4-year-old campaign. I'm expecting a good trip. The number 8 Raise Cane's big victory came in the Gotham earlier this year. That race was over a muddy track. He was a big price that day, and he rallied from well off of the pace. After that race, he was on the Triple Crown Trail, and he's been competing in 2-turn races for the majority of his 3-year-old campaign with varying degrees of success. Personally, I think this horse is a late-running sprinter, and I think he showed it in his most recent start, the Perryville, going 7/8 at Keeneland. It was the first time he ran 1 turn since his Gotham win, and he was able to get relatively close to a moderate pace and then grinded it out to win, as we see from the video. Frankie Dettori picks up the mount on Raise Cane, a horse that's likely to drop pretty far back in the early portion, but I think shorter is better for Raise Cane. 7/8 of a mile hits him right between the eyes, and if you give him enough pace, he'll come with a quality late run. We'll see if there's any upside. He's already run 13 times. Before we get to my top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for the latest DRF videos. Top pick time for the Malibu. I think Speedboat Beach, breaking from the inside post, is going to try to take this field gate to wire. He does have the speed to do it. It's his 3rd start off of a lengthy layoff, and I just think he was in a bit too tough in the Breeders' Cup Sprint against Champion Elite Power. I'm going with Baffert in here. I also want to use Hijazi because I do think he's rounding into his best form and can work out a good trip. 3, 7, 2, and 8 for me in the Grade 1 Malibu, your race of the day on opening day of the Santa Anita Winter Meeting.